This is Nasha Kasha, Ukrainian Almanac. 28 minutes of stories for everyone about Ukrainian life. Nasha Kasha is heard on 19 campus and community radio stations from Newfoundland to British Columbia. I'm your reporter, Stefan Andrusiak. This is our 210th episode. It originally aired in January 2017. Nasha Kasha comes to you from CHRW 94.9 FM on the campus of Western University in London, Ontario, Canada. We're heard on CHMR 93.5 FM in St. John's, Newfoundland, on CKDU 88.1 FM in Halifax, on Local 107.3 FM in St. John, New Brunswick, on CJAS Radio 93.5 FM in Saint Augustine, Quebec, on CJLO 1690 AM in Montreal, on CFRC 101.9 FM in Kingston, on CFMU 93.3 FM in Hamilton, on CKMS 102.7 FM in Kitchener-Waterloo, on CJAM 99.1 FM in Windsor and Detroit, on CKLU 96.7 FM in Sudbury, on CILU 102.7 FM in Thunder Bay, on 101.5 UMFM in Winnipeg, on CJTR 91.3 FM in Regina, on CFMQ 98.1 FM in Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan, on CFBX 92.5 FM in Kamloops, on CIVL 101.7 FM in Abbotsford, on CJSF 90.1 FM in Vancouver, and on CHLY 101.7 FM in Nanaimo, British Columbia. You're listening to Manitoba-born composer-performer Evan Wish, the song, Quietly I Say, All Things Happen. In this episode, we travel to St Catharines and will meet Father Anton Shemihalski. Father Anton caters to the Niagara region of Ontario. Yes, literally, he caters. Father Anton's church kitchen has thrived under his rolled-up sleeves for more than 35 years. It's a story that starts in the lowlands of despair, and it climbs to a place of example, even inspiration. To take us there, let's listen to the Amabile Choir of London, Ontario. Actually, there are 6 touring choirs in the organization. This is one of them, and the piece is called Le Temps de Vivre, or The Time to Live. Amabile is spelled Amabile. You can find out more information about the choirs and their recordings online at amabile.ca. It's a Tuesday morning at St. John the Theologian in St Catharines. Parishioners wearing plastic bonnets and aprons are busying themselves with appointed kitchen tasks. Everyone except for me seems to know what they're doing there. They're making, they're baking, stirring and packaging. It's a little factory in high spirits, rich with jokes and ribbing. One man arrives proclaiming that he's early for his shift. Father Anton retorts, that's because there's no church service this morning.
Yeah, the day there's no mass, you're early. Yeah.
According to Father Anton Shemihalski, it's all a part of a healthy spiritual life.
My name is Right Reverend Anton Shemihalski, known as Father Anton, and I'm at the parish of St. John the Theologian in St Catharines, Ontario. I was born to an Irish mother and a Ukrainian father in the town of Garson, Ontario, which is the other side of the tracks of Sudbury. And we grew up fairly poor, 8 children. There are 4 of us left, 4 are deceased, and my parents are deceased. Very much a dysfunctional household. My mother had mental illness, my father suffered from alcoholism, and as a result, the Children's Aid Society was involved most of our lives. I left home at the age of 15 and came to Southern Ontario to live with an aunt and uncle and make my life. And unfortunately, some of my other siblings weren't as fortunate, and I lost 4 brothers to suicide. But life has to move on, and I think the lives that they lived taught lessons not just only to me and to those around us, but remind us that we all have a mission to try and enrich the lives of those around us. Everyone has a story, and so we shouldn't be quick to judge others and tell them how to live their lives, but rather be there to help them out. So my calling came to me when I was around the age of 8 years old. We went to the Roman Catholic Church because things were much different years ago in our church, so we weren't accepted by the Ukrainian community. And we went maybe twice a year to St. Michael's Church in Coniston and went to St. John the Evangelist Roman Catholic Church in Garson. One day, sitting in the church, I just felt this deep sense of that I was being called to do something greater, and that perhaps I could be the difference in the lives of those that, weren't present for my own siblings. And so I decided that I would follow the call, but it took a long time because I had low self-esteem. Coming from the history of family that I did, I always thought that, why would God call me? So having the family that I did, I thought I could make a difference in the lives of those people that struggle. I certainly, don't judge people if they come in and they have a story to tell. But I also, won't pacify them if they're looking to be justified. I try to challenge them to do the best that they can.
You were 8 years old. How do you make that kind of a decision and hold true to it?
I think the church became my second home. To go to school, I had to walk past the church every day, going and coming. So I went to daily mass every day. I would often go in on the way home and sit just for a little while in the peace and quiet. And I just felt a sense of peace there, and that I wasn't alone. And I followed that through my whole life. I attended daily mass right up until I entered the seminary. There were 2 priests at the church in Garson. There was Father Donnelly and Father Lowney, and they were a big influence in my life. They were very much father figures, comforting. They were men of faith and practicality, and often the little sisters of the Assumption would come into the home to assist with caregiving. My mother would be in a mental health ward for a number of months of year, and Sister Hermance from the Little Sisters of the Assumption was a big influence in my life, because she taught me that you can find joy even in times of sorrow and struggle, and that was a big thing, a very big thing.
Could you tell us a little bit about the backgrounds of your parents? Was there a particular hardship or a devastation that may have pushed them in the direction that they went?
My mother had a normal upbringing, and I talked to my grandparents, and they can't figure out what went wrong other than mental illness struck, and no one had an explanation for it. My father had a horrible life in Ukraine. His father died when he was 3 years old, and his mother remarried. He had 1 sister, and they were taken by the Bolsheviks, and the mother was thrown in front of a train for the children to witness her decapitation. So I don't think he ever got over that, and he struggled and made his way to Canada. He worked in the coal mines in Belgium, and then came to Canada And he landed in Halifax and came to St. Mary's, Ontario, to work on the roads for the government for a couple of years. And then he was able to find his own way, and he ended up in the mines in Sudbury, or Falconbridge. Yeah.
You visited your mother. Were you able to reconcile or see your father?
For a long time, there wasn't what you'd call a relationship. You know, there was a lot of effort. Even moving to St Catharines, I would go back every weekend and try to put something together. But it was very, very, very difficult.
Я пам'ятаю час, коли ми з тобою шукали місяць удвох, не тільки у снах. Лай-лай-лай-лай-лай. Коли я бачив ніч, ішов за тобою, а стіни темного міста дихали нам. Ти заспівай свою сумну мелодію, яку співала вночі. Ти заспівай свою сумну мелодію і залишайся у сні.
I was pastor in Sault Ste. Marie when my father was terminally ill in the hospital in Sudbury, and I received a phone call and I was able to go and see him. It was a powerful experience because I never had the opportunity to sit by myself with him without anyone in the room and to bare my soul. And although he wasn't conscious as his eyes were open, he could hear. And I laid bare everything that I felt and all the things as a child that I thought we had been wronged by, but you come to understand as you get older that people do the best they can with what they know. And so I told him that, he was forgiven, of course, and I still loved him. And the grace that was given to me is he lifted himself up, kissed me on the cheek, and he died in my arms. So it was a wonderful experience. So God is good. God is good. And I was able to move on with my life.
Ти заспівай свою сумну мелодію, яку співала вночі. Ти заспівай свою сумну мелодію і залишайся у сні.
Here in the parish, we're just so fortunate to have people that work together and get along. Very little judgment, lots of laughing and joking. Even Father can tell a joke, they're not scandalized. It's a wonderful place to be. And that has become family.
Quite briefly, could you just tell me how your cooking love and abilities align with your pastoral work and what happened?
Well, often when I was younger and my mother would be away, I used to stay home from school to cook for all the kids. I did the laundry, the cleaning, and so you just learn to do what you have to do. But, there's something special about working with people in the kitchen. I call it a ministry unto itself. And when people are working for the cause of their church, they're praying, because that's prayer in action. It's instead of talking. And, you get a few good tidbits for homilies when you're sitting there working with them, and you can hear what's going on at the end of the table. So my love of cooking has always been, the way to the heart is through the stomach.
І здибав дівчину, що несла пироги. Чи чула ти, і здибав дівчину, що несла пироги.
Back in the kitchen on this particular Tuesday, Jimmy Pristupa was cracking a whole lot of eggs, making the dough for Pirohe, while Adele Krautchuk was here to count the dough, in a manner of speaking. And have you been a member of this parish? Are you a member of this parish for long?
Yes, since 1981. Or 84.
Was that in pre-Father Anton days? Or
Yes, it was.
You just reflect on the difference and not comparing anybody to anybody else, but just maybe how life has been with Father Anton?
It's been different. He's more modernized because he's young-minded. That's what we need in this parish for young people. It was meant to be for mixed marriages.
You know that other parishes look at this one as a best example. If only they had the abilities. Do you realize that as the person who looks at the books?
Oh, yes, we do. We do realize that, and we all work together here.
This place caters to luncheons. It does takeout.
It does everything here. I think some people do think we're like a little store. We are a thriving little church.
I've bought from your takeout. I've been here at banquets. I'm trying to give Father some culinary advice. He doesn't seem to be wanting to take it. I think he should be selling fish. He could advertise sole for sale.
Well, I don't think... I think he's got enough on his plate at this point, He is a very busy person, doing spiritual work plus working in the kitchen.
I'm just joking. You're very kind. And you're very kind to have talked to me. Is it okay if I use this?
Thank you. No problem. Thanks. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
I make the dough for the pirohe.
Oh, okay. So the lady I talked to counts the dough, and you're the one who makes the dough.
I make the dough, yes, for the pirohe and for the pies and the tarts.
Okay.
Yeah.
The dough is very important. It's like, you buy and eat a good ravioli. It's all about the dough, and the same thing with vareniki. Father's nodding.
You're calling them vareniki, eh? Well, that's, I guess, the right word, I suppose, eh? But I call them pirohe. A lot of people call them pierogi, but that's Polish.
My mom called them pirohe. This varenik business is something I picked up. So
yeah.
I'm just trying to be proper here.
Yeah, I see.
But you're making the dough, so you call them whatever you want.
Yes, I call them pirohe. Yeah.
That was Isirum Pirohe, the story of a young man in a quandary. Keep the girl or keep the bowl of pirohe. The band Sinistipiu, Tarastiduis, Yaroslav Gudzio, Yaroslav Vorkevich, Tino Papa, Adrian Alboshchi, Roman Karpishin, Sinistipiu, a popular Montreal band from the late 1970s. Earlier in the program, you heard Sumna Melodia, which means sad melody. It was by Okean Elzy from Ukraine. On May 12, 2020, Father Anton celebrated his 35th anniversary of ordination. The prayer he posted goes like this: "Help me to be the light in darkness, hope where it seems to have disappeared, a renewed faith in times of doubt, love in times of hatred and prejudice, and courage in times of fear." Because of the pandemic, the banquet his parish was to have organized has been postponed.
Coming into a parish, I remember when I was first ordained, I was ordained here at St. John's. Father Walter was a great mentor in my life, the founder of the parish. It was the first time I returned back to the Ukrainian church. I was studying for the Roman Catholic Diocese of St. Catharines. And it was through his influence and encouragement, not knowing the language, and still not knowing enough. You could sell me in Ukraine for a nickel. But, when people see effort and that you genuinely care, it all comes together.
So the church, the home that embraced you in your youth, was called St. John the Evangelist.
And the original name of this church was St. John the Evangelist.
You did? Oh, I always thought you changed it.
No, it's St. John the Theologian now, because in the early years, some of the older Ukrainians thought we sounded Baptist, so we had to change Evangelist to Theologian. Yeah, but the original name of the church, the original seal, is St. John the Evangelist Ukrainian Catholic Church.
Okay.
So it was
St.
interesting.
John's up there thinking, oh, okay, Ukrainians.
Yeah, he's shaking his head and saying, you people still didn't get it right. But once I was ordained here, I was sent to Sault Ste. Marie, to St. Mary's parish there. That was really in pain and suffering, down to a congregation of maybe 30 people. And I honestly, I went in the summer, I was asked to go and do a funeral. And I walked into that little humble church on stilts, Christmas lights around the holy pictures. I remember walking up the aisle to get vested for the funeral and thinking to myself, oh, dear God, don't send me here. And he did. I was impressed because the funeral was scheduled for 10 in the morning. My flight was 2 hours late. And the people sat in the church and waited for me. No one left. That told me that right there that they're a special kind of people. Yet I was told by people, oh, you're not going to like those people, Father. They're like this and they're like that. You know, you had the odd one, but it was wonderful. We had a great community. We worked hard. We built a new church, sold the old property. We had a lot of struggles in the building of the church. You know, the church got done. Now, I was diagnosed with cancer in 1987, and I was traveling back and forth to Toronto for treatments. I stayed with the parish for 13 years, so I left the Sioux in 1998 after a second diagnosis. Once everything was in check, I was transferred to Thunder Bay, saying it would be smoother and easier. Yeah, well, it was a parish that was in, a minor crisis too. They had been hurt and they were suffering. And so there was some rebuilding to do. But they were a great community as well. I never had difficulty with the Holy Cross Ukrainian Catholic Church in... it's in Fort William side, not Port Arthur. Yeah, so they still have that distinction. I was sick again, I had a third diagnosis, so I took 8 months off from Thunder Bay.
Which part of your body was hurting?
So I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, but right now I'm doing fine. I'm cancer-free. This is now 11 years. Heaven doesn't want me, and the devil isn't ready. I went to the seminary to be spiritual director for a year, and following that, there was an opening here in the parish, and most of my family that I have left is here, and this is where I began my priestly ministry, and it's kind of come full circle. So I'm here now in the parish 16 years.
Now, you're right reverend. Are there left reverends?
No. There isn't a left. Right reverend means you have a mitre. I don't wear it often, holidays or whatever. But
and po-Ukrainsky, or right reverend, would be?
They say Mitroforik, Archierea, Mitrat, yeah.
Oh, okay.
All these big fancy titles. Yeah.
Well, no, but it's I know from my youth that it's a real, when at that time Cardinal bestowed one on our Father Haimanovich, who was a very humble servant. It was huge.
It was Bishop Isidore that gave me the mitre while I was still yet in Sault Ste. Marie. Yeah. And when I left the Sioux, I was very blessed that they gave me the key to the city. I was the first non-dignitary to receive it. So it was it was great to be able to leave a community that knew about our parish, and not just for being Ukrainian, but for being a compassionate place for all people. When we come to church, it's not enough just to be sitting in the pew, but we need to be present. Not just listen to the gospel, but to hear the words. And ask myself, in our situation today, in the culture in which I live, what is Jesus trying to say? And it's the same message as always. You're important, you're cared for, you're human, I can accept you in your weakness. And when you fall, I'm not counting your falls, I'm counting how many times you'll pick yourself up. So reach for me. I'm there. And don't look up. Look around, because God works through human hands and hearts in this world. And so if we want to see Christ, we have to see him in each other, or we'll never find him.
Ми завершаємо нашу передачу. In the second half of the program, you heard the sacred hymn, Blessed Lord, Святий Боже. It was performed by the Cave Chamber Choir. We close the program with a song about stepping up, getting involved. The performer is Христина Соловій from Ukraine. She asks, who, if not you? Хто, як не ти? I'd like to gratefully acknowledge that partial funding for Nasha Kasha comes from the Shevchenko Foundation and from the Ukrainian Credit Union. Back in a week, God willing. До милої зустрічі за тиждень часу, дорогі слухачі.
Хто ми з тобою в цьому світі? Хто ти мені, а я тобі? Вдихаєм ніжність із повітря, як діти граємо в любов, в зеніті милості і млості, від світла в темряві нараз. Що ж ти, закривши свої очі, лишаєш серце на показ? Хто, як не ти, спалить мости, хто ж побудує знов? Навчи мене жити, як ти, щоб не кипіла кров. Хто, як не ти, спалить мости, хто ж побудує знов? Навчи мене жити, як ти, щоб не кипіла моя кров. З тобою важко не зважати, від себе нікуди втікти. Сьогодні свято, завтра втрата, сьогодні ми, завтра вони. І я не знаю, де початок, і де кінець, не знаєш ти. Но завтра